or he will turn his stellar converter on their planet. Zed, played by Jeff Corey, last of the famous Akira Corsairs, the planet's old protection force, is old and nearly blind. He suggests they hire mercenaries to protect the world. The leaders of the village are hesitant, but a young protege of Zed's named Shad, played by Richard Thomas, who has piloted his Corsair and is well known to the ship's computer now, volunteers for the recruiting mission. Seeking out first weapons, Shad goes to the space station of Dr. Hephaestus, portrayed by Sam Jaffe, an old friend of Zed. Things don't turn out exactly as they expect. The station is populated mostly by androids, except for 2 humans. They are Dr. Hephaestus, whose numerous life support systems have turned him into a cyborg, and his, well, they say beautiful, I don't know.
I think she's cute.
Nanelia, played by Darlene Flegel, who looks after him and the androids. Hephaestus wants Shad to mate with his daughter, by force if necessary. But Shad cannot bring himself to abandon his people, and he persuades Nanelia to help him escape. She does, and then she follows in her own ship, which, if she's been living there all of her life, why would she have her own ship to escape? But, well, it is what it is. I guess she has to leave to get supplies for the station at some point, right? Although she has no weapons on her ship, which, why would you not have weapons on your ship? Her highly advanced computer systems might be useful. So the two decide to split up to look for more mercenaries. Shad then encounters Space Cowboy, played by George Peppard, a freighter pilot from Earth who is ambushed by space hijackers while delivering a shipment of laser handguns to the planet Umatil. Shad fights off the jackers, thus saving Cowboy's life twice over. And they arrive at Umatil just in time to watch Sador destroy the planet with his stellar converter. Lacking the fuel to carry his weapons back to Earth, Cowboy offers to take them to Akira instead because they've been paid for. And so, what the heck? Just, take them. Shad also talks Cowboy into sharing his gunslinging experience with the villagers because they don't know how to fight. This is John Saxon as Sador. I thought the thing on over his left eye, the prosthetic there, was just silly looking. So I don't know if it's supposed to be some sort of scar or poop on his face or whatever. I'm not a big fan of Richard Thomas in this film. He's kind of wooden, but I just felt like I couldn't be called John Boycott of Mars. Shad just doesn't really seem too swift to me. But oh well. Cowboy isn't thrilled, but the weapons are paid for, so what the heck. So he's on his way back to Akira to get the ships there, and Shad comes across a set of 5 alien clones who share a group consciousness called Nestor. They admit their life is incredibly dull, since their whole race shares one mind. Which, okay, I don't know why it makes it boring, but they're bored. So in order to be entertained, they have sent 5 members of their collective to join Shad's cause. They do not require payment, saying they are completely self-sufficient. All right. This is the Borg.
Yeah.
Like how many years ahead of Star Trek's Borg?
So a more beneficent Borg. Yeah.
Yeah. And I just thought this was like, oh, this is kind of cool because, it shows you just how influential this film actually was on other things later on. Next, Shad goes to a different planet that's supposed to be full of mercenaries, and he gets there, and there's only one, Gelt, played by Robert Vaughn, who's this wealthy assassin who cannot show himself on any civilized planet because he's wanted everywhere for killing or whatever. So he offers his services in return for being allowed to live peacefully among the Akira, and hide away from everybody, basically. And that was the deal. We'll get back to Gelt who I think is the most interesting character in the story in a way. But,
I agree. Yeah.
We'll talk about why in a minute. But not that Cowboy isn't interesting. Cowboy's really cool, but we'll talk about them all in a little bit. Gelt's ship is highly maneuverable and well armed, and he's fine. On his way back to Akir, Shad gets approached by Saint X-Men, played by Sybil Danning of the Valkyrie warrior world. She's a headstrong woman looking to prove herself in battle. She pilots a small but extremely fast ship. It's supposed to have enhanced firepower, but it seems to have basically no effect on Shad's ship, so how it's going to affect anybody else's, we don't know. But if nothing else, she can outfly pretty much anything, except maybe Gelt. Shad finds her annoying, though, and wishes she would go away, but she follows and tags along. While waiting for Shad's return, however, Nanelia herself is out, and she gets captured by a reptilian slaver named Cayman of the Lazuli, portrayed by Morgan Woodward. Cayman possesses a powerful ship of his own with an eclectic group of aliens, and he plans on either cooking her or selling her for food or something. But she explains to Cayman that they are seeking out mercenaries for the war against Sador. At first, he's like, "You've got nothing to offer me," but once he hears the name Sador, he's like, "What? I'm in," because he wants the head of Sador, who destroyed his homeworld years earlier. Back on Akir, they cut back. Shad's sister, Maul, is captured by two Mamori warriors with the intent to rape her, and they've gotten her and they've left the planet, and they're doing their patrol when the other ships arrive. And they realize that they're outnumbered and they need to go warn Sador, so they flee. But Galt's pretty much hot on her tail. Maul, who somehow gets free of wherever she's being held, interferes with their controls, which allows Gelt the opportunity to destroy their ship, killing all three of them. Which, since Shad doesn't know that Maul was on the ship, doesn't bother him one bit, and the fact that she's missing from the village later doesn't seem to bother him either because he doesn't even notice. Poor Maul saves the day by not letting the Mamori signal Sador before they're ready to defend the planet, even after being raped, and absolutely nobody cares. Pretty sad ending for that character. Upon reaching the planet's surface, the heroes are greeted. Well, they're not even really greeted. They're hiding in caution by the native villagers because they're wary of violent species. Their Varda tells them to be peaceful people, basically. Shad admonishes them for hiding away, and they come to their senses and welcome them. Meanwhile, Sador is finally on his way back to the planet when he realizes that the Mamori trailer ship has not responded, and he presumes that something is up. When he returns, his Mamori forces head up against Shad's collective of ships. Gelt dogfights his way into the Hammerhead, which shoots him just about as he's ready to get into the ship and do something, but he can't, and he basically crash lands back on Akir. While the forces of the Mamori are whittled down quite a bit, they do still outnumber them, and they eventually take out all the other people except for Shad one by one. Mamori reach the surface of Akir, where Cowboy has been waiting with the villagers and the set defense perimeters as they defend the first wave of Mamori soldiers, but then they engage them with a sonic tank, which they can't fight against at first. Then they have the Kelvin, who are these two diminutive twins that were part of Cayman's crew, who have stayed behind to help fight on the ground. They sneak into the battle and then stand in front of the tank and expel their extremely high body heat to melt and fry the electronics of the tank, which disables it. But the effort proves deadly to them, and they exert all their internal energies to do so. But it does help the guys fend off the Mallory, and they are able to defend enough, but they're pretty decimated themselves as a process. Next, one of the Nestor collective allows themselves to be captured because they've read Sador's mind and know he needs a new arm. They know he will take one of their crew's arms for himself. Given that their race are all interconnected through their hive mind, they allow this so that they can have ability to control Sador, and they attempt an assassination of him where they control his arm and try to make him slit his own throat. But this attempt is thwarted by Sador's doctor, who reamputates the arm after preventing Sador from killing himself. Sador launches the remainder of what's left of his fleet in a retaliatory strike against Akira for this action. As a result, Saint X-Men blows herself up, partly to knock out Sador's stellar converter. She really doesn't blow herself up. She tricks someone else to go into the converter's thing, and it hits the converter, and then other ships surround her, and they blow her up, more or less is what it looked like to me, but it doesn't matter.
It was a very confused sequence. So
yes.
It was kind of hard to figure out what was going on.
But there's a problem with that whole thing, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Although all of Sador's small fighter forces are wiped out, the Hammerhead still picks off the remaining mercenaries with their laser battery fire and nuclear missiles. Only the Corsair ship, now piloted by Shad and Nenalia, survives the onslaught. But they're crippled and unable to fight, so Nell is captured and pulled in by tractor beam. Nenalia and Shad activate Nell's self-destruct program and then flee the ship through an escape pod, just as Nador commands them to surrender. Nell, whose computer mind has been damaged from the battle, tells Sador to go to hell, expels Shad and Nenalia in the escape pod, and blows herself up, which then starts a chain reaction that blows up the Hammerhead, which we will talk about in a minute. Shad and Nenalia float back down to the surface of Akira, with the battle having won, the planet saved, and they start to grieve for their allies, who have sacrificed themselves so valiantly. But then Shad remembers the Varda, the Akira's religion, and says that they will live on forever in the memories of those who remember them. Fun facts and trivia about this film. At the time of the release, this was the most expensive film produced by Roger Corman. Most of that budget allegedly went to paying the salaries of John Saxon, George Peppard, and Robert Vaughn, allegedly $1.1 million out of the $2 million budget between the three. So when you think about all the other stuff that was in that film, it was done on a $900,000 budget. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
This is Sybil Danning's first official American sci-fi B movie, where she's actually got a major scene credit voice role. While she had done many European films and had 2 or 3 minor cameos in American films prior to this, this is widely her American movie debut, according to most aficionados. John Horner, who was the musical composer for this film, reused parts of the movie. When he was doing the musical composition for Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. If you listen to Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan and then Battle Beyond the Stars side by side, you'll see it. It's very, very similar. Very interesting that they did that. As the film was an homage to Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, one of the homages was, of course, naming the planet and the villagers in danger after him as the Akira. Robert Vaughn's Gelt character is essentially the same role he played in Magnificent Seven, as the battle-hardened, grizzled veteran who's seen it all and just wants to go somewhere and be left in peace, who later sacrifices himself. That was quite an interesting homage to Seven Samurai, since Magnificent Seven is a homage to Seven Samurai as well. And then, of course, many of the ships and sets are later used in later Corman science fiction films, including Space Raiders, Star Quest II, Vampirella, The Fantastic Four, Dead Space, and Forbidden World. This same footage was also reused in other films and video games. The 3D version is shown during the movie theater fight scene at the end of the movie Bachelor Party, and the footage is also used in the later disc video game Astron Belt. This helped make some of these ships, particularly Nell, some of the most beloved and remembered starship designs in cinematic history, particularly Nell. You doubted my logic on this pick, didn't you, Monster Fan?
Yeah. I did see some of the reuse in some other movies that I was looking at this week, but that's very interesting. That's how he could make these fairly good-looking movies on such cheap budgets. He would reuse the same models over and over again.
No, I mean like last week when you said, "Why this film?" But of course, you weren't thinking it was this film. You were thinking it was another film.
Yeah, I was thinking it was Star Crash.
Yeah.
I got them confused.
Yeah, but this film is still a little bit of cheesy schlock too. Let's be fair. But we'll give it some for historical perspective. Of course, this is considered his first major science fiction box office hit. It does have the connection to Seven Samurai and Magnificent Seven, and it makes a pretty good remake homage to those films given the budget. And it actually made more box office than Magnificent Seven did, believe it or not. Battle Beyond the Stars made $11 million. Magnificent Seven only made $9.75 million. That's a little bit of a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then I had to take in the fact that I was 8, maybe 9 when I saw this. And, of course, I was into Star Wars, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica at that time. And if I'm being even more honest, Nell was and remains one of my favorite starships of all time. So I wanted to rewatch the film to see if my memory of the ship was as cool as my child self remembered it. And it kind of is. You know?
Yeah, she's a pretty neat character in her own right.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. I mean, different perspectives of the ship, you get different ideology of what this thing is. But basically, it's a female.
Yeah.
Human with the arms and no head. But I remember, of course, at 8, I wasn't thinking that. I didn't see that back then. I was thinking it was like a cross between a snail without the shell over the back and a hammerhead shark head. That's what I saw when I was a kid out of this. But, it's pretty funny. They've even got Revell models of this. That's where the picture on the right is actually a photo of the model that I retouched and made that into that.
Oh,
photo.
really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That must be rare today.
Yeah. So. Then we got, of course, Cowboy. So let's talk about Cowboy real quick. Whoops. There we go. Oh, you're out of the picture.
Sorry.
No problem. Let's talk about Cowboy for a minute. North 3 says that's his favorite character in the film. I think George does a lot of really good comic relief. Pop. Hold on a second. Hello, Pop. Are you there? Are you there, Pop?
Hey. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Can you hear him, Monster?
Yep, I hear you.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't see you there for a minute there. I had my other screen open and didn't see it. You had come into the room. My apologies.
That's okay. You were doing the intro anyway, so it's all good. What's up, Monster Fan? How you doing, North?
So, let's talk about Cowboy for a second. I think George Peppard does a really good job of kind of being a straight man comic relief character throughout the film. He makes a lot of very dry comments that are, straightforward truths, but they're funny. To when he's talking to Shad about you're going to get yourself killed here, kid, type thing. And of course, the vodka dispenser on his belt is hilarious.
First, I thought he was peeing.
Yeah, but it's like I've never. It's like let me take a dime. That was actually a converted money dispenser, change dispenser.
Okay.
That they used.
I got to get one of those Ravens.
It's an interesting trick on that one there. But I just thought he was funny throughout the whole film, the way he did things. It was such a diversion from what I'm used to seeing him play. I mean, Banachek is so straightforward. There's almost no humor to Banachek as a character, to me. There is, but it's even drier than this character. And of course, Hannibal from the A-Team, he's the straight man to everybody else's quirks in the team. So while there's a sense of humor to him in how he dresses in costumes and stuff like that, he's really, the tactical genius in that show. So it was just such an interesting thing to see him do that. The one thing I didn't like about him was that he was supposed to be from Earth, and then nothing else in the whole film's from Earth or anywhere close to Earth. And I was just like, well, why is he there? Why is he?
Well, in fact, there's a couple of scenes where other people in the party admit that they've never heard of the planet Earth.
Right.
So it's kind of like it's not even that important a system or whatever.
Right. His ship is silly too. But it's the most Earth-like one too. So but when you're introduced to him and he's sitting there, looking like completely shit-faced drunk. Anybody out there? I'm being attacked. Help! I just thought that was like, really?
I had a question. Was that song Space Cowboy, was that already in existence at the time of this release?
Well, I'm not sure. Which version of Space Cowboy are you talking about?
I don't know. I'm not a rock person. I know there's a song. They're gonna call me Space Cowboy or whatever. I don't really know. I don't even know who the artist is.
Well,
but I was wondering if they stole his name from that song and if they could have to pay a royalty for that.
Well,
isn't that Steve Miller Band?
Yeah, that would be the Steve Miller Band was definitely before. That was 69.
Okay. Well, then my question is legitimate.
Yeah. But there's so many other Space Cowboys. That's why I wasn't sure. There's 15 different versions of Space Cowboy. So I wasn't.
I only know the Steve Miller version.
Okay. Yeah, it is a legitimate question. I really don't know.
The other thing I liked about him, and it's kind of surprising for this era of movie making and this kind of character, is his gentlemanly ways with the woman he's attracted to.
Mm-hmm.
He gives her a nice kiss on the cheek. He says, "Thank you, beautiful," or something like that. Mm-hmm. He makes her feel special without raping her.
Right, and gives her the hat when he leaves.
Right. The hat, right.
Yeah, that. Like I said, the character is a good character. I thought. I'm not saying I didn't like the character. I can understand why North likes the character as far as that.
It's a good character. Yeah, definitely. I just find the Robert Vaughn character more mysterious. and more.
Well, let's approach that for a minute. I think that Vaughn's character Gelt is actually Beeler Vance from the Star Wars comics.
Oh, I don't know that individual.
Yeah, he's a bounty hunter who was a cyborg. Originally he was a stormtrooper, and he got wrecked, and he got killed, or almost killed, and they rebuilt him with cybernetic parts, and he became a cyborg. And he hates the Empire, and he's basically wanted by the Empire, wanted by other people for being a particularly good assassin. So this character was introduced in like 78, 79, around issue 16 of the Marvel Star Wars comic. And when I saw this character, I thought, oh my gosh, this is Valance. So in my mind, I was putting that character's backstory over Gelt. Because at that time, I had not seen Magnificent Seven or Seven Samurai, so I didn't make the connection to that until much later. Yeah, I was like, when he got out of the ship, I was half expecting for him to be a cyborg at the end of when he was killed, you know.
Oh, right.
And they bring him, and Chad says goodbye to him, more or less. I was expecting cyborg. I really was. And part of the reason I was is if you remember the scene where he's introduced, Chad looks at that, the sexy woman, and then it opens up to the actual person, and she's kind of like the zombified cyborg. Before,
right.
So that's what I was totally expecting that. And so, that was kind of my thought there. Yeah. So what do you think about that, Pop?
I don't know about that. I was thinking more along the lines of the Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
Than Star Wars.
Yeah, I think most people, you're going to think the Magnificent Seven character because he's playing the exact same role basically as he did in that film. But if you haven't seen the Seven, you wouldn't make that connection. And at the time when I first saw it as a kid, I hadn't seen it, so I think that's where I had that connection for me. But it's totally understandable why others would see just as the Seven connection.
One of the best parts of the movie, I thought, was when Robert Vaughn died and Shad buried him with a 5-course meal because he wanted a meal in peace.
Yep.
And that's
that was actually a bit touching. Yeah,
that was a really well written scene. Yes, I agree.
This movie was much better than I anticipated, so I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay, cool. So those were my mental connections that I had as a kid, and I wanted to see how those held up after all these years. And the reality is, they held up pretty darn well, all things considered. I'll say the story's plot is kind of weak. I will say your script doesn't really allow for there to be any meaningful characterization for Shad or Nanalia. There's good scenes like Shad's scene, and there's good scenes with Peppard, but that's probably because they're the key actors, and they demanded it. I don't think they would have had it if they weren't the major players in the film.
Yeah.
I don't think they needed Nanalia in the film at all. I think they could have just as easily have had Shad. I don't think they needed Dr. Hephaestus and her, period, at all. I think that they could have found out that they destroyed that base, and Cowboy had just fled the base with the guns from that place, and the hijackers were trying to get the weapons, and then I think that Shad could have run into Kamen on his own and been captured, and he could have told him, what was up, and the same thing would have happened. He was okay. I want Sador, so you're free. Let's go. And I think that Saint X-Men would have been a better character as a result, because I think she could have been Shad's love interest in the film.
Oh God, no.
I do.
Oh God, no! I thought she was just awful in every respect. Bad acting, chewing the scenery, making ridiculous statements about what the Valkyrie do, and
Hmm.
um, I was so glad when she got blown up. I actually considered her one of the bad guys, and her name Saint X. What is that? Saint X-Men. It makes it sound like a spin-off X-Men comic from the 90s. So I just thought she was awful. I don't like her as an actress. In fact, she can't really act that much, so maybe I'm being too hard on her, but it was just a weird character that, you know.
No, I'm just saying that it would have made her sacrifice a little bit more meaningful at the end. Because what I would have done was I would have had him spurn her the entire film, and then after she sacrificed herself for him and the planet, he realizes that, yeah, I did actually kind of treat her bad, and maybe I could have actually cared about her or loved her if I'd given her the chance. That's all I would have done with it. I wouldn't have actually had him be really with her.
On the other hand, I could argue anyway that Nenalia, that relationship between them kind of grows and develops through the film a little bit,
It
and
does.
it's kind of sweet to watch. It's almost like John Boy in space, you know.
I guess I just don't like that actress that much. I don't like that character. So
Fair
I don't
enough.
like. It is what it is. What about you, Pop? You're the third man.
Well, I got to say that Sybil Danning, she filled out the uniform quite well that she was wearing. So
Well, we'll talk about that in a second. But
that's always a plus. But yeah, I agree. I think her character could have been a little better, well done. But she had her moments in the film.
mm-hmm. Yeah, the thing about that character though is it's not so much her as the performance as the design of the character. And this character has to be one of the most beloved female characters of classic science fiction in a way. Because when you stop to think about all the different female warriors that are clearly derived off of this character afterwards, it gets ridiculous. But the two that are most obvious are Neil Gaiman and Todd McFarlane's Angela. Think about that for a moment.
Yeah.
And Robert Kirkman and Ryan Ottley's Universa from Invincible. While all three obviously are clearly derived from classic Valkyr folklore, the imagery is pretty obvious that they're influenced by this character. And let me show you what I mean. I mean, it's practically the same costume. So, I mean, just add some hoop rings with a skull on Sybil and you got it, right? North Free says about Cowboy, he brings a human touch to mortality. He fears death, but is willing to face it with his hobo self, I guess, usually looking for his hobo looking out for himself demeanor.
That's a very good point, North Free. Very good point. Yeah.
And of course, Sybil was, like I said, a B movie queen actress type thing with the whole. It was just the body for her at the time. So,
yeah, I got a question with Sybil. I mean, I probably have to go back and rewatch it, but when she went to blow up herself, am I wrong in assuming that she did it twice? I almost thought she blew up twice. I thought she blew up and then something else happened.
Right. No. See, at first they thought that it looks like her small ship goes and blows up the stellar converter. What it's supposed to be, and I think they made a mistake in the film, was her ship pulled up and the one that was following her went in and hit the stellar converter. And then she is later surrounded by the other ships. And then she hits her self-explosive device or whatever and blows herself up and all the other ships around her. That's what it's supposed to be, but it's a very confusing scene. overall.
They must have ran out of budget money for that scene.
Maybe, who knows? But it wasn't. That was one of the weaker points of the film. And another weaker point of the film is if a ship hits the stellar converter, it should start the chain reaction that blows the ship up long before Nell has to blow herself up. So I was like a little bit PO'd when they did that at the end. I was like, no, the ship's already done. He's already gone, if that's how you're doing it. That would have been my reaction to that. But yeah, that's why I say in a lot of ways you wouldn't have needed that other part then, because Shad could have been by himself and remembering her and everybody else. And Nell could have been the one telling him that with the Varda, everybody will be remembered for their sacrifices, and he still would have had his ship,
It's almost like they had to wipe everybody out.
Yeah, well, they kind of had to wipe everyone out because that's what happens in the 7, supposedly.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. But, overall, I think, both of you, found out it was better than you thought it was going to be. It's really not that bad a film. I
think it has several very clever ideas that are kind of put together. They don't always fit really great, but it's a much more thoughtful movie than I expected. So I went from giving it a 2 to giving it a 6.
Really?
Yeah.
A 6, better than a 5. A 6.
Yeah. I'm not someone that is very critical of movies. If there's something in it that I like, I respond to that.
Wow. Okay. That's kind of a surprise to me, though. Okay. All right.
Now, Star Crash gets a 2.
Okay.
Did this director do any other movies?
Yes, he did. He actually is one of the lead directors for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoon series.
Oh, okay. Cool.
That was always an interesting point. I'm trying to remember what else he did. Give me a second here. Yeah. Trying to think here. He actually directed The Insects in 1961. He did Charlie, which was a 1965 TV movie. Let's see, the major. This is. He also did Humanoids from the Deep.
Oh, okay.
Which was the horror film from 1980. Yeah. He actually did the animation direction for the segment Soft Landing in Heavy Metal from 81. He did music videos with David Bowie, When the Wind Blows. He did quite a bit of stuff over the years.
Okay, I'm happy to know that. I did not know anything about him. So,
yeah, but a lot of his thing is into more of an animation and storyboard work and stuff like that for that sort of type of work. So,
I interrupted you, Pop. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I was going to say I'm a big B movie fan, and this is obviously a step up from a B movie, I think, and I would give it a 7 as a rating for the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And he goes, let's not forget the original story of Seven Samurai, of course. Yes, that's what this is. This is an homage to Seven Samurai and Magnificent Seven. This is a science fiction version of it.
Yeah, Seven Samurai, that's got to be, that's in my top 3 of all time, if not number 1. Great movie.
Now, personally, I would have given Cowboy and Gelt and Cayman, especially Cayman. Cayman's the one that really got short-shrifted in this film as a character. He doesn't really do much of anything except do a battle scream at and go get himself blown up, you know. But I would have had Cowboy survive. Yeah, I would have taken out the rape sister Maul because that did nothing for the film. Wasn't necessary for the plot. Gelt would have got them regardless, you know. And since she's never mentioned afterwards, apparently losing his sister doesn't matter to Shad either. Just little tweaks like that, I think would have made it a little bit better film. But other than that, you give it a 6 out of a possible how many?
10.
Oh, a 6 out of 10. That would be like a 3.5 then out of 5.
Oh, I'm sorry, 5. If you're doing a 5 scale, yeah, then 3.5 would be about right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I give it a 3-star. How about you, Pop?
I give it a 3.5.
Okay. The Cayman Death Shriek. Yeah, that was hilarious sounding in a way. I don't know how they made that sound, but woo.
His very name was kind of funny because clearly it's a reference to a caiman lizard.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, but yeah, it's overall quite an enjoyable film.
Yeah, it was definitely an enjoyable movie.
I think
you can't
this,
say about it. You can't say about
you guys, since you guys give it 3.5, I'll give it a 3.5 too. Then I was kind of being a little bit. I was hedging it a little bit because I thought you guys were going to like it less than you do. Go ahead.
I think if Corman was blessed with bigger budgets, he'd probably be better known today than just as he is. You know, to me, he's more like a B movie guy. Correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, he is the god of B movies, but yes, don't get me wrong. Roger Corman is beloved in the film industry.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if he was blessed with bigger budgets, you know, he'd be at higher standard than just, you know, a B movie king. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
True.
Let's see. I'm trying to think here. That's pretty much all I've got to add to this. What else do you think about this film?
I just thought the model work was really, really well done. I thought it equaled anything that Toho was doing in their Kaiju Monster High Day. In fact, their space vehicle type things looked better than the Toho vehicles, in my opinion.
Yeah,
and I reverence Toho, so that's quite a mouthful for me to say.
Okay. Yeah, well, like I said, the Nell ship it's been modeled, and of course it was used later in other films as well. It wasn't just in this film. Right. It was reused in I can't remember which one it was now. The Space Jackers and the Mamori fighters were used in Space Raiders and in the video game that I mentioned earlier. Let's see. I actually think, if I remember correctly, that Nell was in the Bachelor Party 3D background stuff. Speaking of Nell, what did you guys think of Lynn Carmen playing the voice?
Oh, I thought she was wonderful. I immediately found her an engaging character in her own right.
Definitely added to the movie, I thought.
You disagree?
Oh no, I think the character is cool. That's one of the reasons why I kind of wish that St. X-Men was the one who did the destruction of the ship and not Nell, because I always felt like that character dying at the end really, you know, was kind of a sad thing, you know. Northfree says the movie just got filed away as another Star Wars wannabe. 1 star for him, I guess.
No, I thought it was one of his favorite movies, actually.
No.
At the very beginning of the movie, when Sador's ship appears and they do like the slow underneath view, that's kind of like Star Wars in the beginning. But to me, that ship looked like a Schick Razor at first. Did it not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, of course, John Saxon's costume was silly. I mean, he looked not. Well, he goes, no, it's not his rating. Okay. Well, all we see is 1 star there. See, that's why I wasn't sure if there was more stars. You know. I can only go with what the thing showed there. So go ahead and tell us what your rating was, North. Spell it out, son.
Now, I would not take this as one of my desert island discs if I had to have,
Oh, no. Yeah. I wouldn't do that.
But it was enjoyable. It was more enjoyable than I expected. I thought the acting was above average for a movie of this type, for the star characters, at least. Not Richard Thomas, but the other ones.
Right.
And,
well, yeah. If we were going to remake this, who would we put in each of the roles?
If I had made this movie originally, I would not have had Richard Thomas as the lead. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't know who I would have had, and that maybe Chuck Cassidy.
What's
Chuck
his
Cassidy.
name? What's
Chuck
his name?
Norris?
No, not Chuck Norris. Chuck Norris is too much of a badass.
I would
Chuck Norris could have beat up the entire fleet by himself. He didn't need no help.
I would put Lance Hendrickson in for the Robert Vaughn character.
Really? Okay. That's interesting. All right.
I would put that guy that was in Guardians of the Galaxy for the Shad character.
Oh, okay. Would it play Star-Lord?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chris something.
He goes 3 out of 5. So yeah, he's in the same range as us. Okay. Chris Pratt.
Chris Pratt.
Yeah. If we were doing it today, but then of course now that he is Star-Lord, he wouldn't be the right fit now because they would say it was that. But if you think about it, the way Guardians of the Galaxy is set up is kind of like this film too. It owes something to this kind of connection. They're all going after the cube that Thanos wants and stuff in that film, more or less. But at the same time, it's you can see Star-Lord as Shad and oh shoot, I can't even think of her name. The one that's played by Rosario Dawson. Shoot. I want to say Demona, but that's not her name. But I could see all those characters. I mean, Rocket Raccoon would be Cowboy.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
And it would he would have a sidekick in Groot. That's all.
I am Groot.
Yep.
I don't know if you guys touched on this because I missed like the first couple minutes, but the Sam Jaffe.
Mm-hmm.
He was in another science fiction classic, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
No, we didn't mention that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. But yeah, Sam's done a lot of good stuff though.
He was in the Dunwich Horror too.
Yeah,
he was in Gunga Din.
Yeah,
he was Gunga Din.
And North Free is right. Ice Pirates is another classic space B movie. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Robert Urich.
Yeah. But that's more of a space comedy though to me. I mean,
with the space herpes.
Yeah. Let me see if it's got. I'm trying to find. There we go. But Jaffe was in so much stuff. I mean,
yeah, he was probably in this he was probably filming his role in this one for one day and got
Yeah.
a check, and that was all. That was
it. Actually, this is almost his last film role.
Yeah, I figured as much.
He did only 2 films after this, and that was kind of a surprise there. But of course, he had been making films since 1916. So, it is quite a thing there. But yeah, I didn't like his character though. I don't know why I didn't. If he's a cyborg, he didn't seem like a cyborg to me. Just more like, I don't know, just the head stuck on a converter or something.
Head stuck on an egg is what it looked like to me.
Yeah.
They should have showed like some tubes with like blood and fluids pumping through it.
Well, they actually did. They did in different scenes, but it wasn't really well done.
It wasn't well done at all. Yeah,
it looked more like just mechanical parts rather than an actual setup. But I would have, I don't know. It would have been more interesting. Hephaestus would have been really interesting. Is if that he had been a parallel to Sador and was losing his parts and was replacing it with mechanical parts, and he had a mechanical body, then Sador's whole thing of taking other people's parts would have been much more interesting, I think. But of course, Sador's ending was hilarious. The remarks Saxon makes and the way he says it. I want to live forever. This isn't fair.
I will live forever.
Yeah.
If they hadn't drawn the ship in with the tractor beam, they would still be alive. So,
well, like I said, I would have thought the ship would have exploded when the stellar converter was destroyed.
Absolutely.
That was the biggest flaw for the film for me. I think that they should have just not done that. If they were going to blow up whoever was going to blow it up should have been what blowed up the whole thing. Yep. But that's part of why it got the drop there a little bit, I think. Northfree says it was classic when they had the android actors just move awkwardly and add cheesy sound effects. Yeah, the android actors were fun, especially the one that kept turning back every time Hephaestus was continuing to speak.
I thought it was clever when he fed the one behind him and he started chewing.
Right.
So I thought actually that was very clever. That was a very good. I don't know if you could call it an effect or whatever, but it was a very good scene.
Yes, I liked that as well. But those weren't androids. That was the Nestor group. But yeah, in fact, if I could have added that into, well, actually, maybe I can. I don't know. Let me see if I can find it. Nope. Okay. I wanted to add that in, but my graphics one wouldn't do it because for some reason it doesn't want to run GIFs when I want to do it. So stupid. But anyway, yeah, I like that scene. In fact, I took that scene. This is one of the reasons why I thought about Battle Beyond the Stars. I was looking for something for Aaron Lopresti's show, and if you watch Aaron Lopresti's show, he has when him and his wife Shelley are talking about their snacks for the show. I thought of that scene where they're eating, and then they all share the experience, and I sent them that clip from the film. And said, and told them, put that in there in that, and say, remember to share your snacks, folks. Because I just thought that would be cute, but I don't think Aaron's done that yet. So Shelley thought it was hilarious, but that's Shelley's easy to make laugh. she's a character herself, but
you've known them a long time.
I haven't known Shelley as much, but I've known Aaron over 20 years, as far as, in passing, because we're both in the industry and, we see each other at conventions, but, I wouldn't say that we're like best friends or anything, but, we do talk to each other.
Cool.
So, yeah, but overall, I think this is a good week for us for watching the show, and I haven't figured out next week's episode yet. Been busy with a lot of stuff this week. Next week, I don't know if I'm doing my crowdfunding show next week or not, because I have doctor's appointments, so I may be busy to do that. Too busy to do that one. I got new comics today that I wasn't expecting in the mail. Why couldn't they have come yesterday, right? When I was doing what do you get this week? But I got 9 new books, so I will talk about that next week for what did you get this week, plus whatever I got in the comic shop. So we got stuff coming down the pike anyway. Okay. Anything else to add, Pop?
No, pretty much summed it up.
Okay. I want to thank my guest, Monster Fan and Pop Culture Avenger. Pop coming in a little bit late. That's partly my fault. I just didn't see him hiding in the back room. But I'm glad you showed up. And we'll be back on Monday for me. And then we'll be back on probably, like I said, I don't think we're going to have a Tuesday show next week. We'll probably be back Monday, Thursday, and Friday next week. It's probably what's going to happen. Quick question about the live draw. Monster and I were talking about this before the show started. I'm working on something that's going to be the new intro for the new season. If you've watched season 2, you've seen the static version of the Raven in his little space station setup. I'm redrawing that in black and white, and I'm going to get someone to computer color it because it looks okay, but it looks a little bit old and faded in the way it was scanned, and you can't really color over it without wrecking the line art. So I'm just going to redraw it as a line art piece, get someone to computer color it, and reset it up for the new season, and then that'll be hopefully made available for additional stuff that you guys can buy in the future as well. So that's what we're doing this weekend. I don't know if I'm going to show it or not, but if I do, I will let you guys know as a last second thing. Alrighty? Alrighty. So again, I want to thank Monster Fan and Pop Culture being there. North 3, great stream, guys. Have a good one. Yes, you have a good holiday weekend as well. I know up there in Canada, it's not really a holiday weekend like it is here in the States, but stay safe anyway.
In Canada, they actually work for their holidays.
Yes, that's true. Alrighty. So let me go ahead and get our
All right. Take care, everybody.
Good night, Raven. Good night, Pop.
Yep. And if you like this video or you think others might, hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to continue to get content from my channel. As always, I thank you all for watching and for your support. If you want to get in touch with me, social media, Facebook, Lewis.BrightRaven, Twitter @LewisBrightRave2, DeviantArt.com/BrightRaven is where you look for more of my artwork. Quoth the Raven, Lewis Bright Raven, exclusively on YouTube is where you can find these videos. If you have questions, comments, suggestions for content in the future, Quoth the Raven LBR72@gmail.com is the place to reach me at. I'll get back to you within a day or two. Try LewisBrightRaven@yahoo.com. We will see you next time. Have a good one.